I went down to like Pacifica, Lindemar, yesterday and hit like a
Yeah.
workout, hit a workout with the boys. It was really, really cool. And just, I'm forcing them all. Like I have all of my friends, like everybody I know, I'm like giving them my workout app. I'm like, yo, try this and like tell me like how to make it better and stuff like that. And so it's just super fun jamming
Hell
with
yeah.
them, on it. Really good times.
Hell yeah, man. So you said Lindemar?
Yeah, down by like
You were at
Pacifica,
Lindemar, like
like
in Pacifica?
yeah, like right by the
Yeah.
Lindemar kind of area. The gym that we hit there, one of my buddies lives there. And like one of the
Okay.
gyms we used to go to regularly is down by there. So good spot.
Oh, that's cool. How's the app? How's the app going?
Dude, it's sick. So I had this huge unlock. I mean, I don't know if maybe for our audience it could be valuable, like for on the building side. But Codex Mobile is just insane, right? Like if
Yeah.
they update it so often. Like it's gotten
Yeah.
so much better. It's amazing. And this huge like unlock I saw on X the other day of just like an engineer posting about how he's iterating and like works on his iOS app with Codex is he puts it into voice mode. And then if you put it into voice mode, you can switch apps or like go to another app on your phone, but it still like runs and it's still listening to you. So
Yeah.
he flips it on to voice mode. So it's like recording his voice. And then he switches to the beta of his app. And then he's just like toggling around with it and just talking about, oh yeah, this thing's a little bit weird or this thing, right? Like he's just talking like naturally about the front
Really?
end. And then in real
Yeah.
time, it just is going and updating the app. And I was like, oh my
That is
God, that's
so
so
cool,
true.
man.
Because
That is crazy.
I've been doing that. Like the other day I go like when I go to the gym, like I'll notice little like friction points about it. And so I'll pull out my phone and pull out Codex and be like, hey, like this part isn't like working properly. There's a little bit of friction here.
Yeah.
This like toast message doesn't go away quickly enough or whatever. Like little paper cut things, right? But you can move through it so quickly. It's so sick. And then so I just fired up and then I just get back on the bench, and Codex is at my desk, like building it out. It's so sick. So that was
That's
just
insane,
a huge
man.
unlock we
No
found.
more TikTok between sets. Now it's just fixing your
Right?
fitness app in real
Yeah,
time.
yeah. No more
That's
doom
insane.
scrolling, man. No more doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So you don't even need the app. You don't need it open on your computer or anything like that. You can just do it from your mobile phone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, it's the amount of stuff. I feel like we've been talking about this kind of over the last few episodes and stuff, but like just the amount of work that is just shifting so that like agents are able to do so much more of it is insane. And then you're really just orchestrating agents from your phone, right?
Yeah. I mean, this brings up the topic of there's the OpenAI device that people are talking about, like this device built for the AI world. I mean, what do you think just high level form factor for that thing is? Because it seems like the computer is becoming sort of outdated pretty quickly, right? Like the form factor of a computer.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so sick. I think I saw like these demos from like Mira Murati's company, like the Thinking Labs company about that real time, voice, and it's like really seeing what you're doing and all of that. And that sounds like that, like all that device that OpenAI is making is kind of like that.
Yeah,
Where it's just always listening to you and it always has like kind of context about what you're doing and can help you.
for
And
sure.
I'm wondering like how
Yeah.
big it's gonna be. Like if it's like a thing that you plant like at your house or that you take with you on the go all the time. I feel like
Yeah.
they're gonna start with it being something that's more of like something you put on like your desk or something that's like based kind of at your house or something like that. I think that they're gonna start with that and then like and I'm thinking like like you said like form factor maybe it's just like like an orb looking thing or something like that
Yeah.
that kind of like lights up and it can like put like faces on it like it can smile at you or show you pictures and stuff like that. I'm imagining like a little form factor kind of like that type of thing like this orb on your desk has mics on it and stuff like that and speakers and like maybe like a digital kind of screen. And I think they're going to start with that, and then they're going to start to ratchet and like hill climb up to like how do they get to replacing the iPhone, and competing with the iPhone type of thing. I think that's their
Yeah.
plan.
That
What
is
do you
so
know?
wild. I mean, yeah, I mean, I haven't, I'm not as deep in the weeds on the form factor, but it was interesting. I was talking to Sam, who's our head of engineering and one of our forward deployed engineers last week. And I was asking him, hey, do you think AI could hypothetically build this product? And he said, no, not today. And we talked about kind of some of the nuances on like his knowledge of, oh, we had to take the product roadmap this direction. And that's not something that the AI is necessarily good enough to know. But what he did say is that if AI had enough context into his life and all the things that he absorbed and reads and hears on calls and in person and stuff like that, then it might have enough context to actually build the future. So I wonder if this, I'm sure this device is built towards that. Like I know you actually, I think, inserted this thought into my head about like it's so hard to capture all the context of your life. And so I feel like this device has got to be built for that because there's so much missing context when these AIs try to work with you. And if it doesn't have all the context, it's basically useless for some tasks, because you need everything. You need literally everything,
Yeah, yeah.
or else it
100%,
could fall
man.
flat.
That's yeah, 100%. I love that insight. I feel like that's one of the things that like why we have all these devices like on us right now, like like the watch and like now like the
Yeah,
glasses, and just like all these different ways where like it's trying to collect this context. And that's like I feel like one of the
for
biggest
sure.
things. It's like how do we
For
get that
sure.
context in and get it like into the system so they can make the right decision and all that. And so it's just
Yeah.
really wild,
Yeah.
wild times.
Yeah, I'm curious, Enzo, like on the topic of your fitness app. I mean, I know you told me you kind of build it as obviously you're into fitness, it's fun for you, but it also helps you experiment with these tools, help figure out how to run ads, build apps. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. I think, it's funny. When I was working out yesterday, one of my buddies is like a product designer. Like he's like engineer, kind of product designer. And so we were talking about like, all these kind of things because he and I were trained in this old world of building software and building products where you have a product person that goes and like, talks to people, puts together a product requirements document, hands it off to a designer. They go and like build out components and designs for that PRD, and then they work with an engineer to go and like build that out, and like that's kind of the process, and that process is completely gone now. And people are
Yeah.
still actually trying to figure out what that new like ideal process is. And this goes for every domain. I've noticed like it is of course in like the engineering world and like building software and products, but also like in the content world, like creating videos and posting and things like that. Like just the whole domain and the way it just is totally flipped on its head because this technology is so disruptive. So for me, I'm always trying to figure out like I just want to build things, and like that is just, and I'm always trying to figure out like what's the best way to build like the best kind of output right now. And that's why I'm so hungry. I'm so like curious about what it is, and every single day, there's a new Codex update or a Claude update or a new model that comes out, like that changes the way that work is done. And so we're just in like a super fluid place. And that's why I think it's so important to have like a lot of different kind of tools that you can use to push the edges of these things and to see if they really work or not. Like this whole are the like how do you actually get value out of tokens? Like that's part of the
Yeah.
experiment. It's like pushing these things really far to the edges and then seeing kind of what works and what doesn't. And that workflow that I just like mentioned, like where I'm just like talking to my phone and then just iterating through it, like that's the purest like form of product development in my eyes. Because normally it's like the user is doing that and they're giving it to a product manager and that product manager is feeding it to a designer to other teams. And it just is like it's like a game of telephone. Like it's so far away from that pure experience of how the user interacted with your product or got value from your product. But you can get so much closer to that metal, with these new ways of working. So I just think that the whole way of building products has totally been flipped on its head, and that small companies can really take advantage of that and like try it but it's because it's going to take a long time for a bigger company Battleship to turn itself and like reorg like how it builds its products or how it does content or whatever it does, right? So that's the
Yeah.
way I think about it, is like finding that edge and like seeing what actually really works.
No, that's super cool. I mean, how do you think that work is kind of going to evolve with this? Because arguably you were in the gym and you were gaining insights about your product. And I'm sure people who are building products, they obviously have to experience how their product works in the real world. They want to get close to customers, etc. But like you were saying, you're closer and closer to customers. So how do you think work is going to kind of change? Do you think it's going to be more important to be almost the expert? Because say you were building a fitness app and you weren't actually someone who's into fitness, you wouldn't be able to go to the gym and observe these little inconsistencies. But then we talked about previously, like there's also now the advantage of being the orchestrator of AI and how that in some sense is more valuable than the expert. So what do you think's actually going to happen, or do you just think it's super nuanced?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that there's I think that there's kind of benefits to both of those sides, of being the person who is really, really deep in the weeds and like knows all about that specific niche or focus or that topic or like that type of engineering or that type of whatever like they're doing for the company. Like that I think is a superpower in some ways, but also I think it's a really big unknown, like how much leverage that gives the person who maybe they don't know anything about that topic, but they're like 100x engineer using AI. And that kind
Yeah,
of person, it's like, I do think that the expert has a lot of stuff, a lot of like value, and like there is like some kind of moat there between the two of them. But I think that moat is being drained like rapidly, man. Like, and I think that yeah, I think that the moat is being drained rapidly, and I think that we're actually already at that point where if you're a 100x engineer, you're 100x at using AI, that you can do like you can pretty much do like what a top tier expert would do in their field that spent their whole life studying this part of history of like the Philippines history or of like this specific type of medicine. Like the person with
yeah,
100x AI could beat that expert in what they're able
for
to
sure,
output,
for
and
sure.
it's
Yeah,
gonna trend more and more and more aggressively that way. I think that the thing I've noticed is that people that are in that kind of um, expert kind of place, they could like pick up pretty much an out of the box AI tool like Codex and use it to like take their expert knowledge and to build something really great from it, but they never do. Like I don't know why. It's like there's a
yeah,
lot of friction for people for going out and like trying new things. I think that's fundamentally what it
for sure.
is like trying a new thing, trying that. Oh, and I think for some people, they have a little bit of psychology about, oh, this thing is going to make me feel dumb. Like it's smarter than me at this thing I spent my whole life doing.
Yeah, just putting your head in the sand a bit.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think most people are doing that because I'm like, and most experts that I talk to are doing that because I'm like, I talk to people that are super focused like that, like you're mentioning, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever for you. Like, come on, don't you like just try it, And they just they don't really want to go all in, like anywhere close to that 100x engineer, but maybe even like 50 or 20 or 10% of that. They just don't. A lot of people just don't want to try
yeah.
it in my experience, but what do you think about that? How do you kind of think about how that lays out?
No, I think it's a really interesting nuance that you were talking about because if the expert ended up getting really into AI, they'd probably be much more valuable
Yeah,
than the person just using AI across the board.
yeah,
Especially as, in the last like 6 months, the idea of being a really good prompter has kind of gone away because these tools are now so good. You can basically just be super lazy with what you say and like it kind of spits out what you need and you can iterate back and forth. I do kind of buy into this idea of like this guy Yann LeCun.
yeah,
Do you know who he is?
yeah,
He's so I've listened to him talk, and it kind of goes along with this theme that LLMs are trained on past things that humans have created, and therefore like it's kind of freezing the history of human knowledge, and the future still has to be created, and like humans can combine those past ideas and use AI to make great things in the future. But I don't necessarily think that AI is like creative in the way that we think humans are creative. Like, for example, there's this idea, and sure, it can now solve like crazy math problems and things like that. So there's some counterpoints, but there's this idea that if you trained an AI model up to 1904, when the theory of relativity was kind of uncovered in 1905, that model couldn't uncover the theory of
mm,
relativity.
yeah,
So I feel like that's still kind of means that mastery in some field is important, especially at the very edge. Like I was reading this thing this morning that if you're a real expert in a field, you kind of know what's slop and what's not.
yeah,
So you could produce like 20 outputs from the AI and basically know, hey, these are like two or three that I think are really compelling, and the other ones are sort of slop. So I don't really know fully how to think about it because I also think there's instances where someone who's a generalist and really good at AI can just blow past like a PhD. But I feel like for some reason the experts who are using AI, I feel at the moment have an advantage, but maybe that's going to go away. And I mean, I'm curious. Like we were both talking about this book,
Yeah,
Mastery,
yeah. I was just thinking about that as
by
you're
by
talking.
Robert
Yeah,
Greene, and like for those who haven't read it, it's basically talking about the importance of mastering a particular field and like the pursuit of mastering that field and how like masters are super fluid. Like you can think of, I don't know, like a Lionel Messi when you see him playing soccer. He's like so fluid and it looks effortless, and that's just so many reps. I guess it's like the 10,000 hour rule. But what do you think about basically is that idea going to just flip on its head and be wrong,
yeah.
or what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's I don't know. I mean, I definitely am in the camp of that, like, the person who's, like, an expert or that has, like, a lot of experience, like, that has a lot of experience and them paired with AI, like, that's the best combo. Like, I'm totally, like, in that camp. Like, I think that that's by far the best combo. And then I think that I think of this that, like, I think Elon was talking about how the total percentage of intelligence, like, on the earth that's going to be human is going to be, like, less than 1%. And
Yeah,
so, like, when you think about
yeah,
that, it's just like, I think it's these crazy exponentials I think are really hard to grasp, but, like, just, like, my experience of just, like, how it's been accelerating so quickly, like, over the past few years, I'm like, I think that that moat is being really, really drained about, like, what the expert can really do and all that. I think that but I
yeah,
do think that the things that like, that expert it's not just like knowledge in their head. I think that's super valuable. I think that it's like they spent their whole career, having these different, like meeting all these different people, like building up like kind of a network and
yeah,
everything like that, and then gaining access to data that's only available in closed circles, like in those
yeah,
networks. That, in again, going back
yeah,
to your context topic, actually, that like a super smart AI, maybe it doesn't have that insight into that like really tight group, and so in that data
yeah,
could be really key in like determining the output or whatever, and so
for
I
sure,
think that
for
there's
sure.
situations like that where I mean, I think that feel like that's a topic I've been seeing people talking about on X is like, what's the moat going to be? And like, what is it? And that it's really that aspect of it where it's just the human can with the network effects and everything like that, and like why hasn't like Instagram been fully disrupted, or like TikTok or Airbnb, or these things like that. There's like network effects and there's all these other things like associated with it. It's not just like the UI of like the app or whatever, right? Or just like the app on the app store. It's like there's all this other craziness, and but I think the network effect is really important, and like that data that person will be able to access. But so I think that that will always be an edge, and that is really something
Yeah,
that, like, if you're an expert in a field, then you've been kind of curating that like your whole life, that's like a
for
super
sure.
huge advantage. So I don't know. I think that like that, and I think that that kind of person is always going to have an advantage over an AI that doesn't have as much information. You know,
Yeah,
always, maybe, I don't know, maybe you can like run some crazy simulations and you like get all this different information and stuff, like, who knows, but like that's way down the line, I think. But like
yeah,
today I'm like, what are the with the outputs, I feel like it's which outputs like that have you been noticing, like, does it do a good job at, and which things, and from talking with people, actually, I mean, you talk with so many people and people that are really in the in like the trenches really trying this stuff, like what kind of
yeah,
stuff is it, like, that is it doing well, or people saying okay they trust it, or maybe they just don't, like, I don't know, high level, they just, most people don't really find it being super super useful at big things yet, or like, what's kind of or people's like finding, really big stuff working really well, but where's like the slop kind of coming from, like from the crew that you're talking with and all that, where are you seeing?
I don't know. I read this morning about just some examples of, I don't know, say you're really good at sales, you're really good at operations, and you ask the AI about it, like you kind of see through it easier. And I think you were actually telling me about this when we lived together in Mountain View. You were talking about basically a really good way to test how good these things are is to talk to it about something that you're actually really good at. Like you were talking to it about pole vaulting, and you were like, "Oh, that's kind of BS." And then this is actually good insight. And so, really testing on things you're good at so that you can get trust in other areas. I feel like it's gotten way better. I mean, a example, like a positive example of it is a couple weeks ago, I built this proposal for a client. I honestly had no idea what it said at the end of the day because it was a really complex use case and I didn't really deeply understand their business. I would have had to be an expert in their business to understand it.
Yeah.
And then the person who I sent it to was really excited about the proposal. And I thought that was just crazy because I didn't even I kind of just sent it out of the trust of my system and I did some proofreading and checks, etc. But yeah, I mean there's other examples where you ask it something, some sort of like, for example, if you have it go draft a post or you kind of push it like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and you act like you're trying to guide it in that direction, it'll reinforce you because it kind of wants to reinforce you, even though you were just kind of trying to test it. I'm struggling to think of a concrete example right now, but there's definitely been some times in the last couple weeks where I've put something into it just to test it and said, hey, I'm going to go do this. But I was never going to actually do it. I just wanted to see if it was going to say, go do that or no, 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 stop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I think it was literally about like this LinkedIn post I was going to make. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then it said, oh, great idea. It's going to land amazing. I knew it was just a complete terrible idea.
Yeah, I was
Like
just like hyping you up.
it was terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that, I mean, I love that example that you shared about your proposal. And I feel like that is I think it's a really great example of you, like how the thing you mentioned before about how the prompt doesn't really matter anymore. This whole like prompt engineering thing doesn't really matter so much. And I really think that the engineering of the system is really what matters. Like that system and
Yeah,
being really thoughtful about that, really testing like that out and like really, really trying to make it really good. And for like you, because like you have like all that, context in your head about how it all works and everything, and like where to get the information and what information is accurate and how to check it for the proposal, like write it all out and everything like that. Like I feel like
yeah,
and that's the example, like you're an expert in that and have all that understanding of it, in that you can, like, you have this thing in your head about this, about how it works, and that you can kind of guide an AI to like build these systems around it and like daisy chain these
yeah,
things together so that the AI could do that kind of like one vertical thing that you might have done, like with like setting up that proposal or whatever. So I feel like
yeah,
it's super cool, like because it's kind of like you could, one world is like you just keep on doing the proposals like kind of the old way, and it's just, it works every time, but it's
yeah,
just like it's going to take like X amount of time. The other way is like you try to rethink the system and like build a new way around it, and like it probably didn't work immediately out of the box. Like you probably had to like try it, like test it and like iterate, and then like over time, but so it might have taken way more time up front to build that system, but now you don't
yeah,
have to like spend that same amount of time every single time like doing the proposal. And I
for
think
sure.
that's a really good example of you. Like, yeah, we're not in this prompt world anymore. The system is really what matters. And having that experience like you have, and like then you can build a really good system, that works
For
really
sure.
well for something like this.
For sure. Yeah. So like switching gears, I'm curious, what's your take at the moment on this whole like token maxing topic? Because I know you definitely max tokens, but you also seem to be getting a lot of value from AI, which I don't think many people are actually getting that much value. So, what's your philosophy like on all this type of stuff?
Yeah, yeah. It is such an interesting time right now. It's so wild. It's like, oh my God, because I think we were talking about last time in the pod too, just how like, a lot of like bigger companies too, like their token budgets are
Yeah.
just totally exploding. And we both talking to people like anecdotally that are in companies that like don't really care that much, but it's like they have a token budget they have. Like, oh, I'm just gonna burn tokens like for the sake of it to hit this thing. And so like when the
Yeah.
incentives get all twisted and everything like that. So I think that that's one world, and I think that if you're at a big company, you have to approach kind of how you're using tokens in a specific way, and like kind of more carefully, and about these things
Yeah.
like orchestrating other models, making sure that you're not using like Opus 4.8 or the Frontier, like GPT
For
5.5
sure.
for
For
every
sure.
query and all that. I think that that is one world where it's like you need to really be careful about that. But I really do think that there's another world where it's like if you're like an individual and you're trying to, and you really like care about learning AI, that
Yeah.
there is a huge amount of benefit of just throwing tokens at these things to try to build like a system like Will did, like how he like eventually set that kind of thing up, like it for the proposals and all that. Like I think if you have an idea and you're like, I think I could get the proposal thing to work and like AI could to do it in the system, like I
Yeah.
say throw tokens at it and like go for it. If you're at an individual level or like you're
Yeah.
I not if you maybe if you're not at a big company and like that's not you don't want to like let all your employees just throw stuff at it all the time. But I think if
Yeah.
you're like at more at an individual level or a smaller company, then it makes sense to be more open about that, to go and actually try out and take these moonshot big swings and try to like because then like yeah, I think that like obviously the value of it is that you might get something that works really well like Will's system, but also you're going to learn so much more about the tools and you're going to really like press up
Yeah.
against reality and know where they're really at, like what's and like how you could connect up. You're just going to learn a lot, you know. And so I think that like it is on an individual level, like how much you're using AI and how much you're learning from it. And we both love Naval Ravikant, and they've been like posting more podcasts recently, which has been sick. And I thought that that was a
Yeah.
really controversial, like it was kind of a hot take that they all had, which was like burn the like the tokens, like use the tokens, like
Yeah.
and try to because if you're doing more, if you're really doing more, then like it's worth it, you know? And like, yeah, all the tokens are, it's like a lot of tokens, but it's worth it if your output is doing more. And I think that that's the thing is like, you just have to like measure the output and like, am I really learning? And is my stuff really working? Like, just to close
Yeah.
it up, like for us, like a lot of the stuff that we do is software. So it's like websites and applications and things like that. And for me, the KPI, the thing to measure that is like how many people are really using our stuff and really getting value out of it. And so I actually have my OpenClaw, like it sends me a report of like, hey, you had this many brand new people across like all of your products that use it over the last 30 days. And over the lifetime of all your products, like here's how many people have used it. You know, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like a measure I use, like, you know, are people really getting value from this? Whether it's like a piece of software or a piece of content, you know, are people following and liking and wanting to see more of it? And that is it a good product? You know, and if it's a good product, I think that the token that's a sign the tokens are doing a good job. But what about you? That was like a long answer, but sorry. What do you think?
No, no, I think that's no, I think that's super smart. I think it literally just comes down to at the end of the day to incentives. I like what you said about like the individual because if the individual like you or us we're working on our companies and we're trying to do the best thing for our companies. If that's kind of the North Star pillar, then I think going and trying projects that might work is a good idea. But then sometimes, like we talked about in the podcast last week, if the incentive is literally just burn the most tokens possible and you're just firing it off in all directions, like it's not going to just create value for you. So I think if you have ideas, I think it's really cool to go send these AIs out to go test them because the cost of intelligence now is literally a fraction of what it was. So I think that's kind of how I think about it. I think also though, there's a nuance where if you're, for example, building software, it's easy to go say, oh, now I can go build this piece of software, but there's still no point to building it if nobody cares about it.
Yeah,
Like if it's still like if nobody cares about it, there's no point to do it because it still wastes some of your time
yeah,
to go build it. So I feel like it's easy to get sidetracked and do things that don't actually add value. But obviously, there's no way to fully know, hey, is it going to add value or not? So I think it's still cool to test stuff out. But this kind of leads me into a question I wanted to ask you. We've talked about it a little bit, but about kind of the open source models and how China is, say, like 6 months behind with DeepSeek, but you could get that model for virtually free, or you could use the Anthropic model, Opus 4.8, for $200 a month or whatever it is. So, what's your take on that? How to choose what model you use, and then if how that's gonna evolve in the future?
yeah, yeah. That is such a dude, it's such a wild world. Like open source is getting really good, and it always is like these crazy updates. I feel like they're really aggressive with how much better they're making their stuff. And it's just
Yeah,
such a wild race. Like all of it is so good. I mean, if you pick up an open source model, like where it is today, like the latest DeepSeek model or like Minimax model, and you gave it to like me or you, like when we were living in Mountain View, like last year or whatever, we would have gone crazy. Like that was way better than
yeah,
like, you know, what we were building with Replit or all that stuff. It's open
yeah,
source. Like, are you kidding me? So it's just what a wonderful time to be alive. Like how much all this is progressing. And I think the open
yeah,
source stuff is so important.
for
But
sure.
I think that, you know, I think I do really think about it again. I've been thinking about this a lot and I'm like, And yeah, but I think that like about this whole thing of like the model routing stuff, and like for me even like yeah, just model routing stuff like in using open source models versus like cutting edge, like really expensive like the Opus 4.8 or the GPT 5.5s of the world, like
Yeah.
using those versus using like open source models and all that. I do think now if you're a bigger company and you're using AI in like a lot of different places, and like you are the person who's signing that check is not really close to like how the AI is being really used in the like we're talking about, like if it's really helping customers or if it's really driving value. Like if that person
Yeah.
is like, the farther they are away from those layers, the person that's writing the check, I feel like that person should take more open source models, like do more routing, like model routing, and like try to be really like be thoughtful and really efficient about your tokens.
Yeah.
But for me, I just feel like it's a weird, different, bizarro kind of weird world because I'm like doing this like single person like company type of thing, or really small like kind of group of people running a company. And I'm like really out and like I'm seeing how the tools are being used, like how the AI is being used all the time. And
Right.
I want to feel like how good, I want to know how good the frontier stuff is at like how good it is. And I just want to be using the frontier kind of stuff, and I feel like
Yeah.
as long as I'm getting value from it, like as long as I feel like I'm getting value from it, like how much we're spending, like we're getting way more value than how much we're spending on it. As long as I feel like that's good, then I'm down to keep on like just literally using the Frontier like 5.5 and Opus 4.8. But because for me, I've been like I've kind of tried to like step back a little bit and try to do things like more on the cursor side where it's more efficient, or like factory like AI is another way, like
Yeah.
or Droid, these other like things that make it way more efficient. And or I could, I have local models with Ollama on my computer, so I could run local models for certain things. And or Perplexity Computer, does a lot of like model routing and things like that. And I also think that Notion does too. We love Notion. So I see this whole ecosystem of products, and I'm thinking about like which one do I love? Like which one to me as a founder helps me really do a lot better work. And it's the frontiers. It's like night and day when I compare like the frontier like of like using a 5.5 in Codex or using a 4.8 in Claude Code. It's like those are so good. They work so well. It's like
Yeah.
it's not for me. It's like I'm not like a giant company with like we're spending tons and tons of tokens. So I feel like I'm not feeling the burn as much, and I'm really close. Like I know obviously how each token's being used and everything. So um,
For sure.
another long answer, but that's the way that I think about it. I think it really depends on your company and like how close you are to AI. Really depends. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you
No,
think?
it makes a lot. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I was thinking about this idea. I think Dario said it on the Dwarkesh podcast. He was talking about there might be a model training session, a model training run where the model doesn't actually get any better, and then therefore, then when that happens, the economics stop making sense to train new models. But right now, the jump is so big between a model and the one model and the next model. So I feel like I totally resonate with what you said on it. It's worth it to spend whatever you're spending to basically uncover what's possible, especially for someone like you, where that value is passed on to your customers because you're able to put the right tools into their businesses, and that allows you to have a better product. But that's interesting that what you talked about, how if you're someone who's not as close to it, it makes sense to be more to optimize it more. What type of models you're using. So I I feel that we may get to a point where the basically DeepSeek and Anthropic kind of converge to virtually become the same functionality. And I feel like right now everyone's just sprinting and the models are improving at such a rapid rate that 6 months ago, like you're leaving a lot on the table if you're not using the frontier model. But maybe in a year or so, the progress will kind of slow a little bit. And then, hey, now we don't need to pay all this money to Anthropic. But and I get it. It's probably different for bigger organizations because they have hundreds of engineers. And if they're using open source on-prem models versus like paying $1,000 a week or whatever it is per engineer, that's a huge difference in
Yeah.
the economics. Whereas, I mean, if you're more on the like an individual playing with this stuff, maybe the $200 a month is totally worth it. So I don't really know. I mean, I know Naval made the argument that the cost is so fractional. It's such a marginal cost relative to what it would cost previously to have a top tier engineer, that you should just be paying for the best thing, because even if it avoids one mistake throughout the entire year, you could argue that it's still worth paying for the best thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's so cool.
it's wild where this is possibly heading, but
Yeah.
I think it's so cool. You mentioned Ollama, like it's absolutely wild that you could go out on a camping trip. I mean, obviously with Starlink,
Yeah.
you have Wi-Fi from everywhere, but like, I mean, you don't need Wi-Fi. You could literally just have a model on your computer and run this intelligence, like infinite intelligence. So, um,
It's totally out of a
yeah,
sci-fi movie. It's so wild that you could like, I mean, imagine we could go like if you and I went like backpacking or something like that, like way off, but you had this thing, like this tool that you could use in case you like really needed it. Like, it's just the amount it's totally sci-fi, It's cool, I
yeah,
think that people have like are really different perspectives on this, in the industry, people
yeah,
that are trying it. Like, I love that how people have different perspectives, and I love hearing people's takes on it because I feel like we're all really trying to figure it out. But I'm with you on that. That I think that the open source models are going to get so good. Like, imagine like it's like
yeah,
imagine it being basically like 2 or 3 times like double what's as good as like Opus right now. Like an open source model could
yeah,
be there and like could be there eventually, like in within a year or so, right? And so it's just you think about
yeah,
that, it's so huge. And yeah, it could just we could all just be like maybe most people are just using like the open source like local models, and we go to a world where we don't need those like the big cloud models as much. I was actually really thinking about this morning too, because that the Mythos stuff, like people are thinking it's going to get released like maybe this coming week or like but for sure like in June. And the
yeah.
pricing on Mythos is 5 times the price of Opus 4.8. I'm like, so I was
Really?
thinking like, yeah. And so I'm like, that there's like a huge difference for me. So I'm like, okay, what problem would I apply that to? Like, probably wouldn't be like UI stuff. Probably wouldn't be like, like writing copy or things. Like, it would be like some super huge, big kind of stuff. Like I think that when we get into a world like that where there are really big models, but they cost like I feel like they could cost way more too. Like I don't think we're at the ceiling of how much they're going to cost like per token on these things. So I feel like just like you're
Yeah,
saying, the open source is going to get way stronger, but like maybe the frontier will still be out there, but it'll just maybe it's just not worth it. And it's just like you don't really need that much. I don't know. 5 times Opus 4.8 is a lot though. Like Opus 4.8 is already a lot, I feel.
yeah, that's wild. I mean, I saw this tweet that I'm curious what you think about it, but it was actually making the argument that it's possible that the value of these model companies actually goes to almost pennies on the dollar at some point, if basically there's enough intelligence out there. Like, basically the argument that maybe being in the model business itself isn't the best business, because sure, like Mythos is all the hype right now, but soon enough, I mean, the OpenAI model is going to come out, and what if open source catches up? What if you can just go to anyone to get an intelligent model? Like, even, I mean, we experience this all the time. I mean, when OpenAI jumps ahead of Anthropic, like you just flip over the model. It's super easy to do.
Yeah.
If you have the scaffolding, it takes a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it is hard. Sometimes I put myself in the shoes of like, would I want to be Dario or would I want to be Sam Altman or like Elon? I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
god, it's so stressful. Like
yeah,
I mean, it's a battle for sure, and they are totally have done this thing where they've spent an ungodly amount of money. Like they're all
yeah,
unprofitable. I mean, it's just now Anthropic's starting to be more profitable. It's like, I mean, what a bet, right? Like, how is it
yeah,
scary? It's like, so I just have so much respect for those guys. I think it's so cool that I mean, we need people like that just are swinging really big. And yeah, like I think it would be a really hard, stressful business to be in. I think there's like a lot of upside and like a lot of, I just think there's a graveyard of people that try to be one of these frontier model companies that got like totally screwed already. I think it's a really hard fight. It would just be stressful. And I mean, I this week I'm so hyped up because we have WWDC this week, which is like Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, and that's why I brought
Yeah,
my Apple hat today for the pod. I'm like, oh, I'm so hyped on it, and this whole thing
let's
about how
go.
you're saying about the local models and everything, like I mean they're gonna make their announcements about the new like iOS version, the new version of Siri, and with it, and like, is it really gonna be able to do stuff, Because they made this
Yeah,
announcement like a year or two ago, and it couldn't at all. Like it was pretty, it was a pretty bad showing. So we'll see, but apparently the word on the street is it's like, local models, like you're saying, this Ollama type of thing, but it's like running a local model on your phone on device for like most of the stuff for like checking your calendar events or your texts or email and stuff like that. And so it doesn't pipe out to the cloud. So it's like secure, but then when it
yeah,
needs to, it pulls in a cloud, the cloud model, I guess. And
that's cool. Yeah.
I don't know, but what do you think about it? Like, do you think you have used iPhone and you're on Mac and all that stuff? What do you think? Like, do you think it's going to be there or not? Like, what kind of stuff would you want to see? Would you want it to be able to do?
I don't really know if it's gonna be there. I mean, I hope it's there. Like, it seems like they've flopped so many times, they almost kind of lose credibility if they flop again. I mean, but I think that's a really smart concept. Like, yeah, you don't need the frontier intelligence for everything. I mean, most things that you do are pretty straightforward. You only need frontier intelligence for a couple of tasks. Like you said, I mean, checking calendar, you could literally use a mini model, whatever it is. So I feel like I don't know exactly what the iPhone thing looks like. I definitely know that obviously these AI tools haven't really landed with consumers yet. They haven't
Yeah,
felt the open cloud magic. They haven't felt the this type of magic yet. And so I feel like Apple is in the perfect position to kind of show that. I mean, I think most people don't even have these tools integrated with their email or integrated with anything. They literally just view it as a Google on steroids.
yeah, yeah,
And they're able to get these conversational answers. So I feel like they have an amazing opportunity to do it, obviously, but
yeah,
we'll see if they come through. But
yeah,
yeah, I think kind of going into that topic of the model routing, I feel like model routing is such a vital thing. I mean, literally, you can sure, if you're spending a cent for a model call versus 1/10 of a cent, it feels minimal, but as that compounds, I mean, you're literally spending 1/10 the amount if you're model routing correctly,
yeah,
and you're getting the exact same result. Like, there's the meme of the guy who's lighting his cigar with, like, a blowtorch,
yeah, yeah.
and that I think that's literally what a lot of people are doing right now. They're just Opus 4.8ing for everything, so yeah, I like the idea of model routing for sure, and that I think goes again to this argument of maybe. I mean, I think being a frontier model, like I don't envy that position at all. Like it seems, I mean, there's so much to deal with. You're burning so much money. You're, I mean, it's so competitive. Whereas a company like, I mean, you can stand up a company that can route models and, um, I mean, for example, that Droid company, Factory AI, they just posted that video about model routing and I feel like that's so cool. I mean, you can now build these engineering workflows and use all the models out there and spend, even if you're paying like 5% to the company, if you're using 90% less tokens or you're paying 90% less to the tokens, like you're still saving a ton of money. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's so huge. I think it's so cool too, the data those companies probably have, about like what models work well, like what models are people
yeah,
like selecting and all that and using for like what different kinds of use cases and that kind of a thing. Like, as I think that really is, that's one of the other things about being one of these frontier companies, right? Is like they don't really know like how people are going to use these models. Like they don't even really know what a model can do. Like when they release it out, they're
yeah,
like, okay, we red tape some stuff. Like we think it's pretty good and safe enough, but like they let it out and like let companies like Mach 1 or Prism or these other companies go and like build their own kind of solutions around it, like with model
yeah,
routing and everything like that, into like to show what it can really do, And so I just think that yeah, it's kind of interesting, like, that you're kind of at one of those companies and building this really smart thing, but then you don't really, I feel like, get to see all the fruits of it, like, how cool it is, like, how it's impacting people and how it's really helping people? And I feel like
yeah,
it's so cool. They're creating all of these other kind of companies or like, that can take that and then help trickle it down into the other parts of, into the other cracks of society and everything, so that everyone can really use it.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah, I'm curious what you think. I personally think that I really liked Alex Karp's talk on TVPN when he was talking about the Palantir sales strategy.
I
He's like literally
you
just
gotta tell me, 'cause
did you see that?
no, 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 no.
Yeah, so basically he basically was talking about, hey, our sales strategy is literally if you're looking at Palantir or Frontier model, just they send them to the Frontier model and go talk to the Frontier
Oh,
model
yeah,
for
yeah.
2 days. Like they're literally just trying to get people to burn as many tokens as humanly possible. And they don't really have experience except for engineering, like driving value in enterprise. And so he's like, just go talk to him and you're not gonna have a good experience and you're gonna come back to us. So I'm curious what you
Dude,
think about
yes, I
that.
did see that. I actually did
Yeah,
see that. He's like, they come crying back. They come banging down the door, like, please let us back in,
yeah,
because it's such a
yeah,
bad experience. That makes sense. Like the incentives, about it, just trying to get people to burn a lot of tokens and everything. I feel like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And of course, like I love the thing he said about the dead hangs. Like, I don't know how that's possible. And he went into it
That
like
guy's a beast.
he's like,
5.5 minutes is insane.
yeah,
Insane.
that's insane. I
Yeah,
mean, for our listeners' context, like when Will and I were living together in Mountain View, we would try to get our dead hang. Like we tried for like pretty much a year to like get it like way
yeah,
better. And I think we
yeah.
got to like just over 2 minutes. Like I don't think either of us got to 3 minutes or anything like that. And it's just like this
It
dude
is
is, I think he's
hard.
doing, what was it? It's like 6 minutes
You said
or
5.5 minutes. Yeah, 5.5, 6 minutes. Yeah.
it's
It's
unfathomable.
crazy.
Crazy.
I mean, I think where we were going wrong though is we were doing it every day.
Yeah.
Like he
He
said,
said
he gave a tip there where he was like, do it once a week and then you got to taper off. But we were going hard every single day,
that.
like until we literally fell off the bar.
Yeah.
Like I think a couple of times we almost fell flat on our knees because you're just going so hard trying to hang on and you just give out. But I mean, I don't know how he does that. Literally the last half of a dead hang feels like hell. It feels like absolute hell. And you're just trying to hold on. We also had your pole vaulting tape on there too. It was like super sticky. So
Dude,
yeah,
it's
but
so wild. Yeah, we
so
we
wild.
we lean a little bit too far onto that side sometimes. Just like, I'm just gonna grind and do this every day. Like it's just like, yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
need like a rest day or whatever. But dude, yeah,
yeah.
you inspired me. I mean, Will sent me the clip of Alex Karp, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh my god, I want to get back on the dead hangs and get back on the grind. I feel like it's super healthy to get to work on that. And with this new strategy,
So
now I have the
good.
new strategy, and maybe we'll get to 3 minutes. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just gotta optimize. I mean, do the right things. Like, I'm curious, this is not even really AI related,
yeah.
but, what's I mean, I heard this story about, this so I think it was some sort of longevity person who I was listening to, and they were talking about basically one of their clients or someone they were talking to realized that the thing they did their entire career was actually detrimental to longevity,
Wow.
which is the complete opposite of what they were trying to do their whole career. And the person just basically was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just basically wasted my whole life." Like
Yeah.
that made me think about from what you're talking about dead hangs. Like we were going hard, but we were doing the wrong thing. Like we were training the wrong way. So I'm curious if you have thoughts on that because pole vaulting, obviously, you have to be super methodical about like how what do you eat? What do you do for training? Like, how do you really optimize?
Yeah.
So how do you think about that of like, you have to go hard, but then you also have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's kind of that is one of the things that's tough. And I feel like, you know this too as an athlete. I think it's just like as you go and you work with lots of different coaches, you have lots of different teammates over the years. You ask them like how they train, you train a little together. What do you eat for your diet? How do you do this type of thing? Like you kind of you well, you just kind of like we were talking about the experts before. Like along your journey, you meet with all these different people, different like trainers and coaches, and then you get all these different kind of perspectives and things like that. And then the whole time, you're kind of like testing it against your body. You're like you're like the test subject. You're testing
Yeah.
because a lot of these people they have different bodies than you, or different kind of lifestyles, different things, or different situations. And so all this stuff doesn't usually map one to one to like what other even if they're like some of the best pole vaulters in the world, some of the stuff they say doesn't always like map one to one to me. And so it's just like you can still take it in and try it, but it just doesn't always
Yeah.
always work. And I think but I really am a firm believer that like just keep on like doing the reps, like just keep on showing up and
Yeah.
trying something new. And even if it doesn't work or it's not really the thing that becomes like an unlock that you keep in your back pocket, you do it every single time, it's a part of your routine. Maybe it could be
Yeah.
something that you do, like you get a little bit better in another way, or you learn something else that can help you with your game and stuff. And so that's kind of the way that I think about it. I think that it kind of like how we're doing with AI, like how you and I were learning about all this different stuff and we're trying it,
Yeah.
and seeing like what works and what doesn't for our unique workflows and the roles that we have like in our companies and things like that and what we do. And it's just all different. But really, the only way is you just got to kind of go out and keep trying. And I thought that there was some, maybe we didn't optimize and get to the like the longest dead hang, and like that was like one of the goals we put out there. But I still think there was some magic to us getting out there every morning. It's like pitch black outside. Will and I get out there, and we just first thing in the morning we just try to go to war. It's like him and I just going
100%, man.
against ourselves, and the dead hangs are so hard every single time. It's always you're going until failure when we would do it, which was so maybe there's like a mental benefit or some other I thought it was like
Yeah.
good straight going.
ACC.
Yeah, yeah,
You are yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
The,
Tell them what the
for those who
ACC
don't
is.
know,
Tell them what the ACC is.
yeah. So the HCC is the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, and basically it's kind of in charge of dealing with how much pain you can tolerate. And so there's basically this concept of like doing really hard things to train up your ACC, which basically helps. It basically like calluses your mind to do future hard things. So I think that's kind of what both Enzo and I enjoy is like when we're training outside of work. Like Enzo's training for the Olympics, I'm just kind of a normal dude who hits the gym, but I try to train hard and so I'm able to kind of translate that into work. Like what it's like to push a barrier in the gym. And I think it's an easier playing ground to test your barriers sometimes in the gym or in on the track or whatever than in work. Because in work, it's a harder line of like, am I really pushing myself? Am I not? Whereas in the gym, it's like, okay, I either moved the weight or I didn't. And so I think that's kind of important. There's also a study that talked about the ACC as like the main driver of will to live, which I thought was really cool. Like that's why, I mean, I think one of the big contributors of longevity is like doing these high intensity workouts. Like we both rip some aggressive sprint workouts and you feel like you're going to die after, but like those type of things are key, I think, for ACC and just pure longevity. So, yeah, super
It's
interesting.
so
But
cool. It's a newer thing. Like that is just like a newer thing. I
yeah,
think Will and I heard about it from like the Huberman and like David Goggins podcast. But that was like pretty recent, and I'd never, as an athlete growing up for most of my career, I had not heard this perspective. And I actually think like having that perspective when I was younger, like would have helped a
yeah,
lot in my training journey. But glad that
100%.
Will shared with me now, we get to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I got one more question for you, Enzo. So I was reading a Substack this morning that was talking about this account that basically posted a photo of what they called an AI generated Monet picture. And they posted and said, "Oh, this is AI generated, like critique it." And basically all of the art background PhDs, all these people went crazy on critiquing it. Like, oh, the water lily is slightly off, like the shadow is messed up, whatever. And then the person who posted it came back at the end and was like, actually, this is literally the Monet photo.
Oh my God.
so, so I mean, I thought that was a really interesting thing because like there's all this data center outrage and like people are just trying to poke holes in AI. And that just seems like human nature a little bit. So what do you think is kind of obviously we're so into it and excited about it. What do you think is the combatant to or like the way to get other people excited about it and realize that it actually can be a force for good?
Yeah, yeah. Man, this is the question. Like that's so cool. I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm gonna go check that out after this. That's really sick on the
yeah,
Substack. Like I think that's the question. And like these smartest people, that are like, building out all these AI companies that we're talking about, like they're trying to figure that out too. And it's really not going, it hasn't been going so well recently. It's just like people just like, and it's really weird for me because like people in my like personal life, like just like my like friends or some friends or family I've noticed are just like they're totally like oh yeah, I hate AI. Like AI sucks. So they have like a really bad like view of AI. And so they look for, and I think when you have that perspective and you're so entrenched in it, like you want it to be bad. Like I think they're like kind of hoping that it's doesn't really work, or that like something about it is broken or bad so that it gets stopped, because there's
Yeah.
some like kind of uncertainty about, oh, is it gonna take my job, or like what's it gonna mean for the future, and like this kind of the scary aspect of that. And so I think
Yeah.
people psychologically, I think they feel a lot of that weight. And so they're looking like desperately looking for ways to poke holes in it, especially people of like you spent your whole life being an artist, going back to the expert
Yeah.
like conversation. You spent your whole life studying and being an artist, like your craft. And here comes along this thing that can do it instantly. Like the same thing
Yeah.
you did, or like, and like all the other artists in your class that could like go and create the same kind of style and things that they,
For sure.
and that is, I think, deeply unsettling for people, because they don't want to learn a new thing. They don't want to like it's the Naval thing of like it's really painful to go back down the mountain, like to get to the top of a mountain, being the best
Exactly.
painter, and then realizing shit, this thing's gonna be way better than me. I need to like find a new way to take my art and apply it in a new domain, or learn something new and go up to the other
Yeah.
mountain. But you got to go back down and learn this whole new thing and start from zero, being a beginner's mindset with AI. And
Yep.
people don't, I think it's uncomfortable for that, but and just to wrap, I mean, that's one of the things I've loved. I love living with you, Rose. Like, it's just always the beginner's mind. Like, I feel like you and I
Yep.
I've noticed this about Will, is that he's very open to having a beginner's mind and trying new things. And even if it doesn't go well the first time, just trying and maybe learning something. And I think that mindset, people like that are going to do so well in the future. It's the golden era. And it's like, how do we help people be like, hey, it's okay to start from the beginning and to have a beginner's mind and try something new, and to not be good at something, for a little bit,
Yeah.
and just play around with it. But I don't know. That's how I
No,
think about it.
same is true for you, man. I feel like, I mean, I love talking with you because even every week, it's like, oh, this, you can poke holes in your own thinking from like a week ago. It's every week you're on the cutting edge of what's possible in the future. Whereas I think it is so easy to, if especially as people get successful and older, they just are like, oh, I've got it figured it out. I've figured it out. But in reality, what got them there is the curiosity in the first place. So I feel like I that's what I fear is like as I kind of move forward, I fear that I'm gonna lose some curiosity. But I feel like it's so important to just keep reinforcing that. Just the Bezos quote, it's always day one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
100%, man.
It's always
I mean, yeah, it's always day one. So
I think that's like, I mean,
yeah.
being an athlete, how you've been an athlete, I think it just forces you to learn that. Like, if you get to become a higher level athlete like you, it's just you inevitably like you hear a thing from this coach, or change this thing about your swing, or change this thing about how you train, or how you eat, or how you sleep, and like it's kind of a mini beginner's mind thing. Like, you don't really know if it's going to work. It's in a domain that
Yeah.
like your sport, but you don't really know if this thing is going to work. So you're going to go try out, and like maybe it feels weird at first, the technique and stuff. But I feel like it's
Yeah.
that same mental reps, like how you were saying, how it's a way to practice that mentally. I think that
Yeah.
like that's why I think it's so powerful, and it's really great to practice sports, or to pick up a sport, and like to train, and that maybe more people can
Yeah.
do that more, but they have more free time with AI. Is like really try to train for something, because it makes you take on that same mindset. Just you have to take it on to get to that high level. There's no other way. Like you're gonna fail like a lot, and like it's gonna be embarrassing
For
a
sure.
lot, and like and you just have to feel like get used to that feeling. And I think that I noticed that with you with what you're doing with AI too, like how you're saying experimenting with things, and even like on stuff like last weekend we were talking, like working on some of like the video editing stuff with like remotion and hyperframes, and that's new to you.
Yeah.
You're not like an expert in video and editing and all that stuff, but like you're down to just try it and like see if it works and everything, and then create great outputs from it. Like it's just because you
Yeah.
have that beginner's mind, like you're willing to go and try it and learn, and
For sure.
99% of people wouldn't even try it.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't stop me from feeling dumb when I'm using remotion to start, but you definitely like if you're okay with that, then you can push through. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's so cool too. I mean, you as a pole vaulter, like you are the definition of pushing the boundary. Like you're trying to get over a super high bar, and you have the most direct feedback loop that you could possibly imagine. Because as you're falling, you're either like, shit, man, like the bar came off, or you're amped because you made it. And so, like, I feel like that's so cool is and you can really push the boundaries, experiment with different techniques to actually get you there. And you don't know what's gonna get you there because, like you said, like, your body is different than anyone who's ever been pole vaulting. Like, you're you. You have different thought processes than anyone, and you gotta figure out what works for you. So I feel like that's cool what you're doing with your app too. It's like, you can take all this data, what you're eating, what you're pushing in the gym, and then tie that into how you're performing. Like, maybe you have an amazing jump, and now you're like, "Okay, what did I do to train this week? Like, are all the factors that could lead into that?" You know?
100%, 100%, man. I feel like you get that too. That I love what you said about the feedback loop because it's like when you're like
Yeah.
as a vaulter, like I'm on a team, like I'm on Team Philippines and everything, but it's kind of like always me against me trying to get me over the bar. Even like competitors, it's like it's really me against me every single time. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, as a golfer, does it feel kind of similar where it's just like it's a tighter feedback loop? It's not like you can't blame a teammate like, oh, they like missed the shot or whatever, like they messed it up. It's like
For sure.
like they missed the jump shot. It's always like you and like, your that feedback of the swing. I mean, yeah. What do you think about
100%.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it's always human instinct to blame other things. Like, even if it is literally just you can get into this completely illogical thought process that every single time it's never you. But at the end of the day, if people in golf, for example, like I really enjoy golf. I wouldn't consider myself that amazing of a golfer, but I really enjoy it. And every single time you can go out there and basically play not that well, but you can be like, "Oh, the wind," but at the end of the day, if someone's averaging 10 strokes lower than you, they're just way better than you, and you have a lot to improve on. So, I
Numbers
mean,
don't
I think
lie, man.
yeah, it's so a lot like the human mind, it's actually flawed in that way, like, deeply in nature, like, somehow we have to bypass that and realize that it's actually it's all on the individual, you know? I mean, of course, there are factors you can't control, and sometimes those come into play, but it's all about improving the individual.
I love that, man. It's all about improving the individual.